Welcome to the National Paralympic Heritage Trust. We were established in 2015 to enlighten and inspire future generations by celebrating, cherishing and bringing the Paralympic heritage and its stories of human endeavour to life, and in doing so, challenging negative perceptions of disability. The Heritage Centre was opened in March 2019 and is the world's first Paralympic museum. Enjoy your virtual tour and resources.
The National Paralympic Heritage Trust, sharing the story of the Paralympic movement. Find out how it all began.
A black and white photo of founder Dr. Ludwig Guttmann. Ex-servicemen play wheelchair volleyball.
Meet athletes, coaches, fans and volunteers.
In colour, the Mexican wave and wheelchair archers lining up their bows.
Discover Paralympic sports, past and present.
Wheelchair fencing, downhill skiing, dressage, football.
Explore the science of Paralympic sport.
Prosthetic limbs. Racing wheelchairs.
Celebrate the Paralympic spirit.
A wheelchair sprinter. Jubilant male and female winners, one kissing her medal.
Discover the part Stoke Mandeville Stadium played and continues to play in the Paralympic story.
The Paralympic Games is one of the world's largest sporting events. It is part of a movement that changes lives and challenges attitudes towards disability. The Paralympic Heritage Centre celebrates the Paralympic movement and its roots here at Stoke Mandeville. Find out how it all began. Delve into the world of British Paralympic sports and uncover the stories of sporting heroes. Rachel Gadsden is a very successful international artist based in London. Rachel played an important role in projects in London 2012, including many at Stoke Mandeville Stadium. Rachel is also an artist with a disability, and we approached her about producing a logo for the Trust in 2015. This was the beautiful result, a figure that moved with spirit and grace and could be representative of many people and many sports. The founding father of the Paralympics was Professor Sir Ludwig Guttmann, a surgeon who specialised in spinal injuries. Highly respected by medical colleagues and knighted in 1966, he was known to his patients as Popper. He first came to Britain in 1939 as a Jewish refugee from Nazi Germany. In 1943 he was asked to run a new treatment centre here at Stoke Mandeville for service personnel injured in the Second World War. Guttmann transformed the treatment of people with spinal injuries, refusing to accept patients as incurable. He introduced physiotherapy and sports like archery and wheelchair netball to the patient's recovery programme, to improve their physical and mental well-being. After the war, the sports evolved from small competitions to the Stoke Mandeville Games, the International Stoke Mandeville Games, and ultimately the Paralympic Games. Professor Sir Ludwig Guttmann said, "If I ever did one good thing in my career, it was to introduce sport into the rehabilitation of disabled people.
Professor Sir Ludwig Guttmann was born in 1899 in Breslau, Germany, now Wrocław in Poland. After studying medicine at Breslau University, he became assistant to Europe's then leading neurologist, Professor Ottfried Forster, at the city's hospital.
2 photographs of Guttmann.
But in 1933, the Nazis forced all Jews to leave so-called Aryan hospitals. Dr. Guttmann joined the Jewish hospital in Breslau as neurologist and was elected medical director in 1937. The 9th November 1938, Kristallnacht, when the Nazis smashed and destroyed Jewish homes and businesses across Germany. Dr. Guttmann gave orders that any person entering the hospital that night was to be treated, despite racial laws specifying that Jewish doctors could only treat Jewish patients. Like all Jews, Dr. Guttmann's passport had been confiscated, and he was not allowed to travel. But the Society for the Protection of Science and Learning offered him a visa to emigrate. Professor Sir Ludwig Guttmann left Germany for Oxford in England with his wife and 2 children in March of 1939. In 1943, the government asked him to become director of the new National Spinal Injury Centre at the Emergency Medical Services Hospital at Stoke Mandeville, in preparation for those who would be injured in the D-Day landings. He accepted, on condition that he could treat patients his own way. The centre opened in March 1944, with 24 beds and just 1 patient. Within 6 months, there were nearly 50. At the time, immobile patients with spinal injuries had a 2-year life expectancy. Pressure sores and infections were life-threatening. Professor Sir Ludwig Guttmann turned his patients every 2 hours to prevent bed sores, but his goal was nothing less than the reintegration of his patients into society.
Started with a new concept. It is not true that the fact that a man has sustained a paraplegia makes him an institutional case. This is hopeless, helpless, and with a short duration of life. But that if he can get a proper treatment from the start, and that is the main point, that not only his life expectancy can be prolonged for many years, in fact, it can become quite as normal as an able-bodied person.
He encouraged sport exercises, starting with archery, for rehabilitation and to show his patients' progress.
When I saw how sport is accepted by the paralyzed, it was a logical sequel to start a sports movement. And that started in 1948. As a matter of fact, we had our first competition between paralyzed ex-servicemen, 16 only, on the very day, on the 29th of July 1948, when the Olympic Games were opened in London. Now that was the beginning of the first international sports movement for any disabled in the world.
Professor Sir Ludwig Guttmann was known affectionately by his patients as simply Popper, but everyone in the hospital had to accept his total, even obsessive, control over all aspects of care. Many colleagues and patients said it was difficult to disagree or argue with him, but his passion, tireless work and dedication made him loved, respected and admired by staff and patients alike, with many remembering him with great affection. Dr. Guttmann received his OBE from His Majesty King George VI in 1950 for refusing to accept that a spinal injury was a death sentence. Professor Sir Ludwig Guttmann retired from the Spinal Injury Centre in 1966, but continued to be heavily involved in disabled sports organisations and the ever-expanding Paralympic Games. His lectures on spinal injuries educated and influenced other professionals all over the world. He was promoted to Commander of the Order of the British Empire and was knighted by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II in 1966. Professor Sir Ludwig Guttmann died on the 18th of March 1980, following a heart attack.
The most important is from the point of the social reintegration of the paralyzed into society.
When he started work at the Spinal Injury Centre at Stoke Mandeville, life expectancy for paraplegics was only 2 years from the time of injury. But his advancement in the treatment of paraplegia revolutionised the field. His holistic approach to rehabilitation was a way to address mental fitness as well as physical fitness and camaraderie. He's taught a whole generation of physicians from all over the world, with centres named after him in Barcelona, Heidelberg, and in Israel. But most people remember him as the father of the Paralympic movement, a pioneer who proved that disability sport could be just as competitive and exciting as non-disabled sport.
A heart-shaped Paralympic flame.
The Paralympic timeline takes you from the early games in 1948 all the way through to the most recent games. It features a wide variety of objects, from early handmade objects through to live footage from the most recent games and the mascot for the next games. This Paralympic journey is truly inspiration, and one that requires determination and a true fighting spirit.
(2010) Vancouver, Canada Winter Paralympics in bright sunshine. 502 athletes, 44 countries, 5 sports, setting a new ticket sales record at the time for a Winter Paralympics. 230,000 tickets over footage of a vigorous ice hockey match. No medals were won by the GB team. 7 male GB athletes competed, 2% of the total number of male athletes who competed. 5 female GB athletes competed, 4% of the total. 2012 London, UK Summer Paralympics. Record-breaking crowds, broadcasters, athletes and countries taking part amid the jubilation. 4,245 athletes, 164 countries, 20 sports. 70% of disabled people thought that these games had a positive effect on public perception of disability. It was perceived as a breakthrough moment. A total of 34 gold, 43 silver and 43 bronze medals were won by the GB team. 177 male GB athletes competed, 6% of the total, and 110 female GB athletes competed, 7% of the total number of female athletes. 2014 Sochi, Russia Winter Paralympics exceed Vancouver's ticket sales and media coverage. 541 athletes, 45 countries, 5 sports. New sport, para-snowboard. 2 jubilant winners. A total of 1 gold medal, 3 silver and 2 bronze medals were won by the GB team. 6 male GB athletes competed, 1% of the total, and 6 female GB athletes competed, 5% of the total. 2016 Rio, Brazil. 4,328 athletes, 160 countries, and 22 sports. For the first time, an independent Paralympic athletes team of 2 refugee athletes. The games were called the People's Games, and were the first Paralympics in Latin America. New sports triathlon and canoe. Colourful images of canoe, shooting, judo, cycling, equestrian, and running, and heli-swims. A total of 64 gold medals, 39 silver, and 44 bronze medals were won by the GB team. 151 male GB athletes competed, 6% of the total, and 100 female GB athletes competed, 6% of the total. 2018 Pyeongchang, South Korea Winter Paralympic Games broke all international broadcast and viewing records for Winter Paralympic Games outside of the host country. 564 athletes, 49 delegations, 6 sports. China, Croatia, Kazakhstan and South Korea all won their first ever Paralympic Winter Games gold medals. Wreathed in smiles, winners pumped the air and showed their medals. A total of 1 gold medal, 5 silver medals and 2 bronze medals were won by the GB team. 9 male GB athletes competed, 2% of the total number of male athletes who competed, and 5 female GB athletes competed, 4% of the total.
Welcome to what promises to be the biggest and best Paralympic Games ever. This extraordinary summer of sport continues right here on 4.
Great Britain, who take gold at Eton Dorney finally.
You could be the hero, you could get the gold. Breaking all the records that I never could be broke.
Needs a smooth drive up here, get it up, and it's good.
I'm going to do it for everyone who's supporting me.
I don't think there can be a dry eye in the house.
Caps it off with an ace, and now he's trying to apply pressure.
It's going to be Peacock. Peacock takes the goal for Great Britain.
London 2012, made in Britain.
Standard chairs were used for sport in the early days. Dr. Gutman preferred to focus on the development of the patients rather than the development of the chairs. So he would inspect them for modifications, and adapted chairs couldn't compete. This didn't stop competitors from making their own modifications, for example, modifying the seat pads to lower the seat's centre of gravity and then claiming the chairs were just old and saggy. As interest in Paralympic sports grew, innovators from around the world began to transform their wheelchairs into the purpose-built sporting wheelchairs we see today.
In the 1940s, wheelchairs were heavy and not very manoeuvrable. People using wheelchairs weren't expected to go anywhere, so comfort was favoured over practicality. The first wheelchairs used for sports at Stoke Mandeville were known as Travo chairs. Professor Sir Ludwig Gutmann inspected the chairs for modifications, and overly modified chairs couldn't compete. But on occasion, some competitors would remove stuffing from their seat pads to lower the seat position and the centre of gravity, and then claim the chairs were just old and saggy to get past his inspections. Major wheelchair adaptations began in the United States. A pioneer in wheelchair design was Herbert Everest, a disabled engineer. Frustrated with the heavy wooden chairs he had to use, Everest proposed to his friend and fellow engineer, Harry Jennings, that they invent something better. They began to design wheelchairs that were manoeuvrable, transportable, and most importantly, could be used independently. In the 1960s and 70s, wheelchairs became lighter and more transportable, but specialist wheelchairs for sport were still not available. Players continued to personally adapt their chairs for sport. As with so many advancements in wheelchair design, it was pioneering innovations from disabled sportspeople themselves that moved things forward. Jeff Minenbreaker was a paraplegic wheelchair basketball player in the United States. Jeff combined his aviation and engineering skills to build the first ever aluminium rigid frame high-performance, lightweight adjustable sports chair, the Quadra. Marilyn Hamilton became a paraplegic after a hang gliding accident. In 1980, she took the Quadra and developed its design even further to create the Quickie that was functional, lightweight, responsive, and perhaps just as importantly, look stylish and fun to use. In the 1980s and 90s, British and other European firms began to replicate and improve the American designs. Today, with wheelchair sport becoming more mainstream, technological advances in sports chairs continue. These advances are having a major impact on design for daily wheelchair users as well. The heavy, non-manoeuvrable, institutional wheelchairs of the past have been replaced by chairs that are lightweight, easy to use independently, have bespoke sizing, and are tailored to the individual user.
Peter Norfolk, OBE, took up wheelchair tennis following a motorcycle accident in 1979. He competed in the inaugural quad singles Paralympic wheelchair tennis competition in 2004 in Athens, winning a gold medal in the singles and silver in the doubles. He successfully defended his gold singles medal at the Paralympic Games in Beijing in 2008. At the London 2012 Paralympic Games, Peter had the honour of leading the Great Britain team into the opening ceremony as flag bearer, before winning a silver medal in the quad doubles.
Wheelchairs used in sports are made of light alloys and metals, including titanium, and more recently carbon fibre has been used to keep the weight of chairs and wheels low. By reducing weight, the strain on an athlete's shoulders and wrists is reduced. Switching to light materials such as carbon fibre has also reduced vibration and increased comfort. Racing wheelchairs are now aerodynamically designed to enhance speed. A 100-metre wheelchair sprint can now be completed in less than 14 seconds. Marathons are now completed faster by wheelchair athletes than athletes running the marathon. Technology and human endeavour are narrowing the gap in abilities. Wheel size varies from sport to sport. For example, basketball chairs have larger rear wheels than racing chairs. This allows for shorter stroke lengths and more explosive power to start, stop and change direction, rather than the straight-line speed needed in wheelchair racing. In court sports, the requirement to accelerate rapidly and change direction suddenly have led to the addition of a fifth wheel. Mainly used for tennis and basketball, the fifth wheel prevents chairs tipping backwards and allows a shorter wheelbase and smaller turning circle. The camber or angle on the wheels is when the wheels are not perpendicular to the road and mounted at an angle to improve performance. Increasing the camber or angle of the rear wheels allows for tighter turns, improving agility and an increased turn velocity. It allows a quicker grab, aiding rapid change in direction. The profiles of racing wheelchair wheels are actually oval-shaped. This reduces contact with underarms and facilitates a lower seating position. The push rims are considerably smaller, as the biomechanics of this configuration requires less arm movement but greater push. Sprint wheelchairs are designed to track in a straight line, but for long-distance racing, the long wheelbase is also advantageous for turning. The design helps to prevent the chair tipping when cornering on a track as the weight is transferred to the outside wheel. Chairs are fitted with a compensator, which is hit by the athlete at the start of a bend so they can push normally through the bend. The compensator is hit again in the straight to allow the chair to go in a straight line again. Back and seat height, axle and seating position, and strapping are bespoke for elite athletes to their specific impairment and balance. They're critical to optimal performance of the chair. Each has a significant effect on the user's centre of gravity and balance, which is vital in preventing tipping over and impact injuries. Racing chairs have tilted seats to allow greater stability and even weight distribution. The design of an athlete's wheelchair will depend on the impairment of the athlete and their physical mobility, as well as the rules for that sport. Court sport athletes are categorised from low point to high point athletes. Amongst other factors, this indicates their mobility and their trunk strength. Low point athletes with the highest impairments require a bucket seat and higher backrest for stability, as they have a lower function level in the lower part of their body. High point athletes who have more function and mobility often require a sixth wheel with 2 wheels on the back. On display is the tennis wheelchair used by Peter Norfolk when winning the gold medal in the Paralympic quad wheelchair tennis events in Athens and Beijing. Peter used a bespoke titanium chair with strapping and set up to suit his size, function and balance. To aid Peter getting the best push, he also used a coated push rim on his racket hand wheel to ensure good contact between the racket and wheel, given that the racket is strapped to his hand. Court chairs across different sports are relatively similar, although there are some specific adaptations. For example, wheelchair rugby frames have reinforced front and side bumpers to protect the user's legs and feet in clashes and to withstand impacts permitted within the sport. Some rugby chairs also have special hooks to trap opposition players.
Where is a sports museum without footage of those sporting whims? This is our choice of the Paralympic Team GB's greatest moments over the years. What would yours be?
Margaret Morm, archer, winner of Britain's first Paralympic gold medal at the Stoke Mandeville Games in Rome 1960, lights the Paralympic torch in 2012. Kaz Walton, Britain's first Paralympic track gold medalist at Tokyo 1964, races across the finishing line. And David Weir defends his 1500-metre title at London 2012.
Rushes, there is the man, David Weir.
So it's Liu of China in the lead. David Weir of Great Britain, though, tracking the Chinese athlete. David Weir in pole position, just pulling away from the pack. David Weir's going to get it. Can he hold on? He can. David Weir of Great Britain wins it. And the home crowd love that. Look at that, David Weir.
Ellie Simmons, double gold, age 13, Beijing 2008, dives into the Olympic pool. In her distinctive red, white and blue racing cap, she pounds down lane 4 and is applauded by Union Jack waving fans. She's in the lead as she turns at the end of the pool, but now is neck and neck with her closest rival. In the final lap, she steams ahead and wins. She and her rival embrace.
Here is the man of the moment.
Go Johnny.
Johnny Peacock.
100 metres at London 2012.
And this time they are away, and Peacock goes away strongly. It's Johnny Peacock in the lead, and he's got competition on the inside from Brown of the USA, and Arnaud Ferry coming in for the bronze. It's going to be Peacock getting the gold.
Red-haired Johnny Peacock's lap of honour.
It's a home win for Johnny Peacock.
He gets a hug from a fellow athlete. Chris Holmes wins 6th gold at Barcelona 1992.
So lane 4 then, 4 up from the bottom. Chris Holmes with a great start. Holmes leading by about 3 metres. Holmes leading by about 2 metres at the 50, but Chris Holmes crosses the 25-metre mark. The 20-year-old from Madrid is coming back, but Holmes has got this under control. Holmes is going to win his 6th gold medal, and he does. The story of these Paralympic swimming events is all about Chris Holmes.
Kenny Gallagher and guide Charles Evans first to win gold on snow, Sochi 2014.
The gold medalists for Great Britain, Kelly Gallagher and Charlotte Evans, create history for Great Britain with their first ever gold.
White blonde Kelly Gallagher receives her medal, and then fair-haired Charles Evans, and both girls wave to the crowds.
And this is the race for gold, and Sarah Storey looking to become the most successful female Paralympian from Britain of all time.
Red-helmeted Sarah Storey is in the lead in the velodrome at Rio 2016.
There we have it. There we have it. Sarah Storey, the most decorated female British Paralympian of all time.
At the Olympic Equestrian Centre.
Sophie Christiansen was awarded 77.522 for her excellent timing and focus. Christiansen dominated this grade 4 years ago, and it was smiles all round again for the Brit.
Smiling happily, Sophie holds up her 3 gold medals. Team mixed BC 1-2 gold medal match between Great Britain and Portugal. The British bocce team wins gold at Beijing 2008. Wheelchair contestants toss coloured balls onto a pitch in a game that resembles pétanque or bowls. A winning throw clinches the gold.
Representing Great Britain, Tanni Gray-Thompson.
In her 3rd successive gold at Sydney 2000 in wheelchair racing, Tanni leads the field at the start of the final lap.
So it's Gray-Thompson as they get the bell. Down the back straight they go, and this is a very good lead opened up now by Gray-Thompson. Tanni Gray-Thompson from Great Britain, the 31-year-old, goes in and wins gold here at the Paralympics. She wins it convincingly.
Here we go, Ali Jawad.
Silver in weightlifting, Rio 2016, 194 kilos on his 3rd attempt.
Bar pauses on the way up. Does it tip? What do the referees think?
Ali is jubilant. 200 metres freestyle, London 2012.
Well, there is the applause. No mistaking that. Jessica Jane Applegate goes in for Great Britain to 14.31 earlier today. Applegate is a full body length behind the leaders at the moment. This is the final turn. And the speed endurance coming from Applegate to the roar and applause of the crowd. They're 15 metres away from the home now. Neck and neck and neck. Applegate from Great Britain is the Paralympic champion 2012. 2 minutes 12.63.
Ceremonies form a crucial part of the Paralympics and provide an opportunity for the host nation to share its wider cultural heritage. As well as the athletes' parade, there are fabulous performances and music. This display features some of the athletes' clothing, as well as stage-set models used when developing plans for opening performances for London 2012.
Dr. Goodman.
The international games are held every year at Stoke Mandeville the last week of July, with one exception. Every 4th year they are held at in the country where the Olympic Games take place, immediately after the Olympic Games. The first time this took place in 1960 in Rome, where 400 paralyzed men and women took part in their own sports, representing 24 countries.
The voice of John Harris.
In the name of all competitors, I promise that we shall take part in these, the 7th World Wheelchair Paralympic Games, respecting and abiding by the rules which govern them. in true spirit of sportsmanship, for the glory of sport and the honour of our teams.
3 wheelchair racers pound their wheels. The opening ceremony of the 2004 Games in Athens, Greece. The athletes parade around the stadium waving at the crowds. A huge tree stands in the Olympic Stadium, a Mexican wave. Beijing, China 2008. Red flags are waved. Dancers in white, the 3 flanges making up the Paralympic emblem. The Olympic flame. Vancouver, Canada 2010.
I declare open the Vancouver 2010 Paralympic Winter Games, a first in Canada.
A young boy lights the flame. London 2012, a plane flies across the dark sky with 2 silvery vapor trails.
It's a triumph of human endeavor. It will change our perception of the world.
Now, Sebastian Coe.
It is my great honor to say, welcome home to the Paralympic Games.
An aerial view of the opening ceremony. Sochi, Russia, 2014.
Welcome home to a movement that shows what sport is all about.
An ocean liner glides across the stadium. A torch is lit. Rio, Brazil, 2016. A ski jumper, a swimmer, and a seaside.
Sport is about what you can do, what you can achieve, the limits you can reach, the barriers you can break.
Pyeongchang, South Korea, 2018. The centerpiece is a military aircraft. The teams parade around the stadium.
Sport shows what is possible. Sport refuses to take no for an answer.
Torches are lit and red and orange fireworks shoot up into the sky.
This small display case holds temporary exhibitions. It provides a chance for us to share your stories, recent object donations and community engagement work.